Do you own a seven-figure practice? You've probably heard me talk a lot about the Seven Figure Practice Club recently. This is a new, amazing program where we are getting together seven-figure practice owners together in a small group of 12 to work together for a year. There's so many things that seven-figure practice owners deal with that they don't have a community to ask questions, learn, and grow from. If you want to apply to be in the Seven Figure Practice Club, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club. There, you're going to be able to read all about what the program entails. We're going to be covering all sorts of things in our monthly meetings. We're meeting twice a month. The first meeting is 90 minutes, and we're going to have three 25-minute hot seats for you to dig in and to get questions answered and also to help other seven-figure practice owners. The second meeting of the month is going to be one of our practice owners presenting on something they are knocking out of the park. And it's a chance to really be able to learn, teach, grow from each other in a way that you really don't find anywhere else in the marketplace. Also, in person meetings are so important. And that's why twice a year, we're going to connect once here in Traverse City, Michigan, and then another time somewhere else, yet to be determined. And we're going to connect, we're going to hang out, we're going to talk private practice, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. So if you want to apply for the Seven Figure Practice Club, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/club and fill out your application today. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, bonus episode. Welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and we just yesterday had episode 946, and tomorrow we have episode 947. So this is our bonus episode that we squeezed in between those because we landed some new podcast sponsors for some episodes we recorded later this year, and so it would have just screwed everything up for the team to have to re-record a bunch of stuff. So this is episode 946.5, or somewhere in between 946 and 947. So our bonus episode. Welcome to the new year. Hopefully you've been checking out our New Year, New Habits series. We've been talking with a lot of amazing people about growing multiple streams of income, launching courses, where you might be leaking money. Yesterday, we talked about the biggest HR mistakes that practice owners make. So a lot of really amazing episodes kicking off this year. And today is going to be one of those episodes also. And I'm so excited to have Mike Snyder here. Mike Snyder is a partner with Raptor USA, a marketing consulting firm whose principals have worked with hundreds of middle market companies nationally. And really, we're going to dig into a few things around the great marketing lie, 6 truths for the C-suites that Mike co-wrote with Bruce Rowley. Mike, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you here today. How did you get into marketing?
Well, back in the day, right? So it's a journey for all of us. I was in the Marine Corps for a long time. I eventually retired as a Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. I was a public affairs guy, got my master's degree along the way in marketing communications. And along the way, I ended up, running an ad agency and then starting my own private practice, more or less. Started a marketing firm with my partner, Bruce Rowley, and eventually morphed into digital marketing, serving, man, I'll tell you what, lots of private practices, medical practices, law practices, accounting firms, all across the country. And it's just my joy. I really fell in love with business owners who risk everything, put it all out there to try to serve, their clientele the best way that they can. And, working hand in hand with hundreds of these all across the country and here in Wichita and Kansas City as well, getting to know them and their agonies and helping them has been really meaningful in my journey.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen a few things shift in marketing. Now entering into 2024, what are some things that just big picture you've seen shift over, say, the last 12 months or so?
12 months. Well, the digital landscape just continues to morph and change. Also, the use of video and audio podcasting, where you place your messages has, just changed over the years. I was laughing with somebody a couple of days ago. We're just talking about, when I got into the business 20 years ago, yellow pages were still around. And I remember consulting with clients as to what size their yellow page ad should be and how much, and then explaining to them, for instance, that really search engine optimization is the new yellow pages. And even to this very day, I still refer to digital marketing as being, the new yellow pages, and whether you have white in your background or blue in your color, that kind of a thing, those kinds of thinking still apply, online. And it's very complex, right? That's why we exist. It's like, how do you tie 10 shoelaces together to have marketing shoes that work for your business?
Mm, I like that. Now, your book, The Great Marketing Lie: Six Truths for the C-Suites. This would be a great place for us to start. Just thinking about this new year, new habits. One thing that I've been really thinking about as we enter this new year is how frequently people make New Year's resolutions and give up on them by February 1st. Most of the research shows that anything we start and say we're going to do, we probably won't be doing, within just a couple weeks. So I've been thinking through New Year's experiments and to say, okay, I'm going to try something new, not from a resolution, this is the new me, but from a curiosity standpoint, to just say, I wonder if I drank a little more coconut water during the day, if I might feel a little healthier. Or I wonder if I did a 1 minute plank every other day, do I feel a little bit better instead of this kind of pass fail mindset? So I would love through that lens of just thinking about this new year and maybe some new habits or even new experiments. Take us through these six truths, and I'm sure I'll have follow up questions. But kick it off for us with what's truth number one.
Well, truth number one, right? So let's back up just a minute to what makes marketing hard, right? That's the great marketing lie is one word. It's called hard. Business owners out there confuse marketing with marketing communication. Yellow pages and SEO and PPC and websites and video and blogging and ads and all that stuff, social media. That's actually marketing communications. And a lot of business owners and those in the C-suite, they think that's marketing. No, it's a subset of marketing. So really, I would challenge the listeners and business owners out there to think about marketing differently in the new year. Stop thinking tactically, which is marketing communications, and instead start thinking strategically, and that's actually marketing. So the goal of marketing is really, really simple. It's to create value for your clientele, right? For your customers. And truth number, and that's not as hard as we think. All of us consume marketing every day. Why do we buy something? It created some value for us, so we decided to buy it. And as you look around your office or your living room or your car, wherever you are listening to this podcast, look around, because everything that you see around you, you bought for a reason, or was, if it's a house, somebody put the floor in because it had a certain amount of value. So reverse engineer, why we buy what we buy, the value points that we see, and then put that into the life, your life as a business owner or as a manager of a business within a business, and ask yourself, how can we create value strategically, for our clientele and our customers? And the number one way to do that is simply by, and this is truth number one, and it's a strategic truth, it's simple differentiation. How can I make my practice different from all the others in my category, in my city, right? In my location? How can I differentiate myself from them? And there are several ways to do that that are very, perhaps unexpected.
What are some of those ways that people find unexpected results?
I like this a lot. Sometimes, I like to say the four P's still apply. In classical marketing, education, and training, there are the four P's: product, place, price, and promotion. And so those are really still the four levers that we have to pull, and so meditate on that a second. So, what is your practice really all about? That's your product. But how can you maybe modify your product a little bit, to differentiate? Can I go to your website, and can I log into a client portal, that also involves place, and look at any kind of records or notes, and if I can do that on, your company's website, and I'm researching, I'm trying to choose a practitioner, and I'm looking at your website, and I'm saying, oh, I see, this is fascinating. They seem to offer perhaps more convenience. because the product anymore really, in a world of what we call price and product parity, convenience is really so attractive to a new, prospect or a new customer. And a lot of times, businesses, especially in professional services, they really make it hard. To this very day, I can't go to my CPA's website, I can't go to my lawyer's website and just, or my HR, because we outsource for HR. I can't log into a portal and see all of the documents and all of the notes that pertain to me, or my business. Now, maybe some of you have that, maybe some of you don't, but it's like, okay, convenience is part of the new product way of thinking. Okay, and that
Mm.
can be a way making it more convenient to differentiate.
Yeah, yeah. And as I think about it, just seeing how deep you can go as we're talking here, I don't want to feel like we have to get through all six of them. If people want all six, they can get the book. But I would rather just dig into a couple of the truths that you think are most applicable. What would be another one of the truths that you write about in the book that to you would really help people around marketing and around thinking differently about how they approach marketing this new year?
We've done this with a number of clients, and it's called repositioning your competitors. Okay, I'm just going to take marketing services for instance. I mean, that's that is a professional services category, and then I can tell you also a story about medical services and how we repositioned our competitors for that client, for instance. So a lot of times, if you know a little bit about marketing, you've heard about positioning. The position for your business on an XY axis. And a lot of times when it comes to companies, they tend to position themselves relative to the category that they're in. Like take our company, we started in Wichita, Kansas. And we were a marketing firm. So our position was on the x-axis was marketing firm, and on the y-axis was Wichita, Kansas. And so every other marketing firm described themselves the same way. So all of us were in that upper right-hand quadrant. If you were to put dots for us and all of our competitors, and we're all shouting, trying to talk louder, hey, we're a marketing firm, Wichita, Kansas, buy from us. And what that tends to do is drive prices down. Okay. It's a function of competition. If you're charging on an hourly basis $125 and everybody else is, you think to yourself, well, maybe I can get more clients by charging less. No, reposition them by perhaps changing the way that you talk about your business. In our case, for instance, what we did was we stopped saying, hey, we're a Wichita, Kansas marketing services firm, and we changed our labels. And changing your labels does not require a permit, does not require an act of God, does not require any heavy lifting, really. It's like, okay, let's take a look at what we're doing and our outcomes and describe that in a way that is meaningful to our target audience. And so we had, and a lot of times this kind of revelation or this insight comes by really listening to your prospects, really listening to your customers. For instance, let's just say that you're a psychiatry practice, or you're a counseling practice, and your prospects come in and they're like, I'm just really looking for somebody who can understand the kind of person that I am, who can relate to me, besides the credentials that you have and the services that you offer. So let's just say that, based on that insight, you change, your y-axis from your location to we relate to XYZ. Let's say we relate to business executives. Let's say that you have a real niche in your practice targeting business executives or high wealth families going through problems. That could absolutely become your y-axis. We like to think in marketing, at least the way that we think about marketing, as the y-axis being your target audience. Okay. And so break that label down into who is it that you really want to talk to. In our case, our marketing services firm, we said, you know what? We really enjoy working with principals of entrepreneurially led businesses or entrepreneurial businesses. So we made that our y axis, principals in entrepreneurial businesses. All of a sudden, that disqualifies all the big companies where we're working with like marketing directors or VPs of marketing. Then we went down to our X, label, our X axis, and we redescribed the services that we offer. Rather than saying marketing services, which really no one really wants to buy, we said, you know what? What we really are is we are an outsourced marketing department. because that is a metaphor. So, speaking and relating your messages metaphorically, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so when we started saying, we're an outsourced marketing department, that's our x-axis, for the y-axis, principles of entrepreneurial businesses, people perked up and they said, I've never heard of that before. Tell me more. And all of a sudden, by the way, in our map, and this is an exercise that you can actually get out of the book, there's the map, and there's a supporting document that goes with how to do this with your management team. It's not hard. It's all laid out right there. It helps with practice. But you know what? Folks listening to this podcast, they're going to be in business for many years. So as you do this, you get better. In our case, when we did that, we changed our X and Y axis to differentiate ourselves. Inadvertently, we noticed we had pushed all of our competitors from that top right quadrant where we were all together initially, and we pushed them down into what we call the death quadrant, where they're low on the y-axis and low on the x-axis, and they're far away from us. At the same time, we realized that because we were in this quadrant all by ourselves, we had more pricing power. So we were able to increase our prices, Now, we did this for a medical firm. It was a hospital in town. They were trying the goal there. So it helps to have a goal. So they were trying to increase hospital admissions. And they explained to us that their emergency room was a great feeder for the hospital. 1 out of 4 people who go to the emergency room end up in the hospital. So they said to us, how can we increase, traffic and volume to the emergency room? And ERs are large, folks are stickering out there. They're like, well, of course, people go to the closest ER. And that was the assumption that we had as well. But we started really thinking through it. And it took a couple of months to get there. But we really realized some frustration. In this case, the frustration with emergency rooms is 2 things. One, folks don't know how long the wait is, right? We're all familiar with going to the ER and waiting hours. And so, folks don't know. That's a frustration we learned. And second, they want to check in advance. There was this emotional component that said, I want to know somebody's waiting for me on the other side. So we played with the XY axis, and we allowed the X axis. We changed the ER room with wait times, and the Y axis for people who want to check in advance. The labels don't have to be 1 or 2 words. They can be entire sentences. And then we went ahead and executed against that. It just so happened that this hospital, in their ERP, their enterprise, software, had software that allowed them to show wait times. And so we dug that out of their software, and we started kind of broadcasting around Wichita. Hey, the wait time for this ER is 9 minutes or 10 minutes. Anytime it was longer than 15 minutes, we shut it off. In the by changing the positioning of this brand and their ER network, we were able to dramatically increase volume. We found, for instance, that when you tell people the wait time, they will actually go farther from a closer emergency room to a farther emergency room, and that was a behavior we were very surprised by. So not only did we achieve the goal of increasing ER volume, it worked so successfully that our client started building more ER clinics around Wichita, in order to fill their hospitals. Two examples really quickly of how just changing simple labels and then acting on it, right? Changing labels is relatively simple if you have some good insight. Changing it and putting it into your marketing communications might take a little more work, but it did not cost them a whole lot of money. They were already running outdoor digital advertising, and so they just plugged that in instead. Now, I know that a lot of practices out there, maybe don't have digital networks of outdoor boards that they can lever, but at the same time, just ask yourself, if look at my website. If my website is talking just like any other practitioner's website, how can I change my messaging by way of just changing my labels, and get that onto my website, put that into the copy on my website. And that's thinking strategically and then acting tactically.
If you're looking for an awesome payroll solution, look no further than Gusto. We've used them for years here at Practice of the Practice. They keep me organized, we know how much taxes we're paying, and it's all done right, and you get pay stubs that look like any other company. Head on over to gusto.com/Joe to learn all about their payroll solutions. There is no reason that you should be worrying about payroll. Do it right. Head on over to gusto.com/Joe. That's GUSTO.com/Joe. Now, when you think about a private practice, what's some of that low-hanging fruit that they might already have data on or systems already set up that you think they just need to maybe adjust a little bit and then market it differently?
All right. So the second, I'm gonna go into like the second and the third, truths, right? The six truths. So the second truth is a great cheater tool for marketing strategy. And the tool for developing good marketing strategy is one word. It's called easy. There's one thing humans love a lot, and that is making something that is complex and making it easier. The third truth is storytelling, right? So let's say that I'm a practitioner, and I'm like, okay, how can I make it easier for my clientele? Well, tell them the story of onboarding. Tell them the story, perhaps, of others who onboarded and what their outcome looked like over time. Make it easy, right? Combining storytelling for me to see, okay, I see, I'm like other people, and this daunting thing about seeing a new practitioner is not so daunting anymore because they've made it easy. Hey, on your first visit, here's what's going to happen. You're going to fill out some paperwork, and then we're going to dive into an exploration. Just demystify it. I'll tell you what. Well, I don't care whether it's the dentist or a doctor. Really, folks don't make it relatable and easy to digest. Here's what's going to happen to you. So make it easier strategically for your new prospects or your new clientele to know what's going to happen maybe on the first or the second. What's the outline? What is the totality, perhaps, of my treatment going to look like? Now, I know a lot of folks out there are saying, well, we can't make any promises. Well, you don't make any promises. You're just saying in general, this is what we try to do, and you already have it. What I've learned through marketing when I work with principals is a lot of times they already have the answers in their head or they have it in a document. And we say, well, take what you can explain, what you can say, and put that forward facing on your website. Let me tell you another quick story. This isn't in the medical category or the professional services category, but it was an amazing insight. It was a manufacturer who made cutting tools for industrial companies. And I'm sitting down, I'm talking to this, owner of this company, and he's like, we just can't get the attention of our industrial customers because everybody's saying the same thing. We all make cutting tools and we'll make them for cheaper. And then he said, what they don't understand is everybody else out there is going to take, 3 months in order to do custom cutting tools. It takes us 3 weeks. And I sat back for a minute, and as a marketing guy, and I went, whoa, 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 whoa. So you just said that you can do custom cutting tools in 3 weeks instead of 3 months. He goes, yeah, absolutely. We do it all the time. So I said, that's it. That is your x-axis. Your product is no longer cutting tools. Your product is delivery in 3 weeks versus 3 months. And he sat back and he goes, you know what? That might really resonate with our target audience. And so they put it on their sales presentations. They put it on their website. They made it a tagline for their brand. 3 weeks, not 3 months. And within 30 days, they'd landed one of their target customers they've been trying to work with for over a year. It was a prospect of theirs because that resonated with the C-suite because they want their cutting tool ASAP and they'll pay more for it. So pricing went up. Also, they can get their assembly line going because it's costing them big bucks when they don't have the right tool to keep the assembly line moving. But that's an example of how the answer already existed. They just didn't know how to use it.
Yeah, I think so often, we think that it's just having a niche in counseling, and that can be helpful, obviously. But to really look at, like, what are we doing? What's our differentiator? I was talking to someone recently, and they were the on time counseling practice. That if you were even a minute late into your counseling practice, in the sense that, like, if your therapist was running late, the session was for free. And so for people that, are scurrying their kids from here to there, and then, someone's running behind by a few minutes, it's annoying as a parent to be 5, 10, 15 minutes late for a counseling session if you're there on time and your therapist is just, doing their progress notes or whatever. And I thought, that was just such a simple thing that, yeah, we all should run on time. But what a great way to say, hey, we're not going to charge you if we're running late. And they became known as the place that ran on time.
No, no. See now, look, that is a beautiful example, because I can tell you right now. Let's just go back using the tools in the book, right? So first of all, they actually changed their market position, even though they may not have known it. All of a sudden, their product, because we everything that we do is a commodity. Okay, whether it's counseling or psychiatry, it's marketing services, CPA services, law, it's all a commodity. There's lots of availability out there. So what they did is they changed. So let's take that for granted. We're in the law category or we're in the counseling category. We don't have to say we offer counseling services. But what we can say is we offer on time services. So their x axis, their product, became on time services. And their y axis, without even maybe knowing they were doing it, they were targeting busy people. Some people have all day to wait, but not a lot of us. I don't have all day to wait, right? And so if their y-axis, who they're talking to, became busy people, and I can see the headline on their website being, on time counseling for busy people who can't wait. And if I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, look, you got to understand, right? I mean, those of us looking for services, we imagine folks are all credentialed and pretty much the same. But when I see somebody that says on-time services for busy people, by the way, if it's more than 5 minutes late, you don't pay for the session. You don't even have to go that far. I like that guarantee. But you're probably going to you may not get 100% of the market that way, but you're going to get more than your fair share of the market that way. I think that's an awesome example, because now you can also take that messaging and you can put into email campaigns if you're talking to clients. Hey, by the way, it's the new year. If you know of anybody who needs to be in counseling, especially after the holidays, right? Tell them about us. If they're busy people, we are on time. And I like email as a tactic. Now we're going from taking the strategy of on time services, and that is actually a marketing strategy. We are on time. It is a benefit for the audience and also a feature that you can deliver on. Now you take that strategy and you put it tactically onto your website. You put it into an email campaign, for instance. Maybe you blog, which is a great way to tell stories. And you just don't tell the story. You end with, and Mike, was, he during his entire, schedule of treatment, we were 100% on time. So you build it into the stories that you may or may not be telling. Now, a great challenge question going forward into the new year is, again, since storytelling is a great tool in marketing, one of the truths, are you telling your story, or is it just a flat website? How are you telling your story? Or do you have your practitioners in your practice? Is there a video intro for them? Talking about, hey, I went into psychiatry or I went into counseling because of blah, 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 blah. And video is a wonderful way to tell stories and make your practitioners, who otherwise are just a name, Dr. Alan Smith or Dr. Betty Smith, and making them a real person, because people, they don't really buy, yeah, they buy services, but they're really buying somebody else. If I go into a counseling session and I've been into counseling, family counseling, marriage counseling over the years, if I'm not going to relate to that person, I'm not going to come back, or I may come back begrudgingly. And what might have should have been 12 or even a year or 2 years of counseling might only last 3 or 4 sessions. And so if you can show somebody, so you're trying to weed out the misplaced or bad clients, and we've all had them. We have done it ourselves. I tell you what. So with our company, Marketing Services, we developed an ideal customer profile, and this is talked about in the book. Develop an ideal customer profile where we want busy people, and if we want busy people, we want these busy people to have these attributes, right? Whatever, they're professional thinkers. They psychographic and behavioral qualities. They enjoy being asked questions. They provide thoughtful answers, right? And so when we developed a customer profile like that for our marketing firm, and we started putting it out there, on our website, And even in our sales processes, we were able to weed out bad prospects who would consume too much time and be difficult for people, demoralize our team. And we started getting more people that we wanted per our ideal customer profile. And so, by telling stories and weaving in, what your practice is really all about on your blogs and perhaps in a video and perhaps changing your positioning on your website, you're going to see some really interesting effects by the people you attract.
Now, when you talk about stories, are there some elements? If so, I'm picturing, say, practice the practice. So we help people to build thriving private practices they absolutely love. What would a good story video be as an intro to a website like that?
I think that all of us are very curious about why somebody got into the practice. I think we're all very curious as to what motivates somebody. I think we're curious. Is this going to be somebody who's droll and bored, 12, 15, 25 years in practice, or do they still have that spirit that I'm hoping to get in a service like, your listeners have. And so conveying that, you just got to think about, we go to movies because movies are stories. We're surrounded by stories. This podcast tells a story, right? And it's how we learned thousands of years ago when we didn't have TV and radio and newsprint magazines. We literally sat around fires as humans and learned stories about the history of the tribe and, the ceremonies of the tribe, that kind of a thing. And so, just depending on what kind of practice that you have, what people want to know, the why, the why factor. Simon Sinek, maybe you've heard of it. It's in the book. We believe it. We practice it in the marketing that we do for clients. People, don't want to know what you do. They want to know why you do it. And it's absolutely true. So that is something that any private practice can really glom onto, and portray through marketing communications, meaning, again, the tactics. Why do we do what we do? Nothing makes us happier than seeing somebody walk in miserable and seeing them walk out healed. Well, that's what I want as a person. And that's what they're excited about, right? That's their why factor. Oh, by the way, what we do, just so the why factor really quickly. Why do you do what you do? How do you do it? What do you do? So the what, counseling, family counseling, right? And so just, I don't know family counseling, I can't just prescribe right now on this podcast, but generally, why do you do what you do? How you do what you do is different. Using your previous example, you know, which is how we do it is we have on-time services. We know people are busy, so we provide on time so that they can go to their family counseling and then go pick up their kids from school at 2:30. What we do is family counseling, personal counseling, that kind of a thing. And so, that's how you can take a model, and mental models are very important. Right now, we're already talking about mental models, right? Repositioning your competitor. Well, that's a mental model. What I mean is, it's not just, thin air. There's a model for it. On paper, you can go do it. Easy as being a cheater tool for marketing strategy. That is a mental model. Walk around every day, even ask your patients, how can what we're doing for you, how can we make it easier? And that's just a mental model. The third model is mental model storytelling. How can we tell our story? I don't know about you, Joe, but to me, this, I know I do this a lot, but even just talking about it, this is not hard. It's like, okay, how can we capture stories? Now, I know we got privacy issues with patients and all of that. We got to get over a lot of the limitations that we put upon ourselves. There is absolutely a way for you to tell provider stories and also patient stories without violating privacy. Whether it's just using a first name, and whether it's just a review where you capture where you're just using a first name, these things can be done. But mental models that we're talking about now and that are in the book, they're simple to understand and they're also fairly simple to execute. Doesn't require a lot of money or investment. It may require some time. Maybe you get a videographer or a photographer in, and you have your licensed PhDs or doctors or whatnot, and they just sit down for 10 minutes saying, "Hey, my name is Dr. Smith, and I've been in practice for 15 years. I went into practice because I had a family member who had a crisis, left an indelible mark on me. I just wanted to go out there and prevent that from happening to other people." So if I'm listening to that storytelling, you're making it easier. You're combining these truths to want to go set up, an online appointment. I don't have to call anybody. I'm just going to go to your website, set up an appointment right now. Hopefully, a lot of your practitioners have that. And we are seeing now the convergence of a lot of these marketing truths at the strategic level.
Mm. So awesome. Mike, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Well, I'll tell you what, and I practice this a whole lot with our team because we have, culture, team culture is huge because you can do a lot of these things, but if your team doesn't embrace it, then it's going to fall flat out there. So the more that you can get your team enthusiastic about what we're talking here, and let them have some ownership. Okay. So, if they can be enthusiastic, then your marketing will be a whole lot easier. Yes, you as the owner of the practice are going to be responsible for maybe some of these ideas or introducing them. But at the same time, the more that you can, delegate some of that execution, they'll have that ownership. And next thing you know, it'll start affecting your culture, and affecting the culture, getting folks enthusiastic. And that will be seen by the folks walking through your front door.
So awesome. And Mike, if people want to connect with you, if they want to get the book, where should we send them?
They can go get The Great Marketing Lie on Amazon.com, or they can just go to raptors.biz, and that's how they can get a hold of me. Look, I started my career as a marketing director for an accounting firm when I got out of the Marine Corps, right? So I've been in professional services a lot. On the client side, my wife, ran a physical therapy practice, so very familiar with the category. And I like to say, hey, look, I'll give you 30 minutes to an hour of my time for free because we're for practices in the middle market. And if we can give value in just a 30 to 60-minute phone call, we'll do it.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you.
Well, I hope you have been enjoying this series of New Year, New Habits. Would love to hear what habits you're testing out. What experiments are you doing? Not from a New Year's resolution standpoint, but from a, hey, I just want to be curious about if I could change things to improve my life in some way. Would love for you to reach out. If you're in our membership communities, feel free to drop a line in Circle. If you follow us on social media, we're all over the place. And, we couldn't do this show without our amazing sponsors like Gusto. Gusto, as a small business owner for me, paying and taking care of the team and getting, the benefits and taxes and all of that stuff is just really hard to figure out sometimes. So Gusto makes it way easier. And right now, our listeners are getting 3 months totally free. Just head on over to gusto.com/Joe. It's where we run our payroll. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. I almost forgot, also applications are still open for the 7-Figure Practice Club. Those close at the end of the month. Again, if you are a 7-figure practice owner, check that out over at practiceofthepractice.com/club. Thank you again. Have a great day. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.